education studies. So let's begin our conversation with Mr. Yao. So good evening. We're grateful that you could join us.
Thank you.
I know that for parents, this must come as good news. We're not in September yet, but if come September, my child is going to school and he or she doesn't need to pay anything at all, except for me paying the transportation for him or her to get to school. That should be good news, isn't it?
Exactly.
Very good news. Is that how parents see this?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Good evening to your viewers and listeners. Yes. Honestly, when we heard of it, especially myself, I sat down and asked myself, so do we have people who have the nation's interests at heart, like Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo? And so the march talked about the free senior high school education is now going to be implemented. And so I said, may God bless this one. And so, yes, we are looking forward to it.
You're looking forward to it. I know September is a few months ahead of time. But what I did, I showed us all the constitutional provisions. So this is actually in line with what the Constitution says. The key issue we've all been grappling with, the NDC government started what it calls a progressively free senior high school education. It made some investments in that direction to expand access. That's a brilliant thing. Now, this government is coming in and is saying that we're going to go the full haul. But key question on the minds of many people is, where is the money going to come from? Have you as parents been wondering where the money is going to come from?
Of course we know, in a sense that
I know you wouldn't know, but I'm asking whether it has occurred to you that
they are in the hands of affairs. And like the proverbial blind man, if he says he throw a stone at you, then
he knows where he's standing on.
So they are in the hands of affairs, and they know where they will get the money. This is not the first time. It started as far back as 2008, 2012, then 2016, and it's going to be implemented.
So you're confident that the government, through the many years of promises, may have fine-tuned this and is ready to fly, and you're waiting for it.
Yes.
So if come September, you don't get free education, would you be disappointed?
I don't think it will happen. I know it wouldn't happen.
There is no need to doubt that
there's no need to doubt it at all.
Right, let me
he has been hammering it since 2000.
And now it's time to deliver. Right, let's go on Skype now. Dr. Prince Ama is joining us via Skype. Doc, good evening. I'm happy that you're joining us, but I also apologize that we've had to keep you on Skype for a little while so we can be sure we don't lose you. So, free senior high school education. We have made a progress from the progressively free senior high school to the full haul, which Nana Addo says is going to happen in September. For you, where you stand as an expert, education expert, you've been doing quite a lot of work in these areas. Do you think this is feasible?
Thank you very much, and good evening to you. Let me begin my submission by saying that nobody will disagree, oppose the government in respect of an intervention to bring an expanded access to senior higher education. The issue of contention here is addressing the constitutional requirement of provision of accessible education for all. And if we're to look at that particular issue, then we have to look at what is exactly happening currently. As we speak now, there is a huge disparity in terms of people's background and access to secondary education. If you look at the demographic characteristics of individuals who gain access to senior secondary school, you will find out that the people from best schools in the best schools from JHS, the best private schools, are having access to best secondary schools in this country. And those from the very disadvantaged backgrounds are having difficulties in passing the BECE or getting very good grades to access senior secondary school. So what it means is that based on based on the available evidence, there is an overwhelming disparity in respect of people's demographic background and access to senior high school. And for any social policy intervention, I was expecting that the policy would be targeted towards addressing the difficulties of the vulnerable in society. As we speak now, roughly around 50% of students who write BECE are unable to attend senior high school. And out of this figure...
So Dr. Prince Amar, let's pause and have a conversation around the point you've just raised. You are saying that you would have thought that such a policy will first be targeted at vulnerable groups. Did you mean people who are unable to first afford basic education and go through basic education? So you think that that's where it must start from, or what?
Exactly the case. I see all the various reports at the Ministry of Education suggest that there is a huge disparity. There is a huge inequity, in respect of people having access to senior secondary school, and to a large extent, people from the affluent background tends to get more advantage in getting senior high school, and they are also able to transit to the university. For example, as we speak now, roughly the top 20% of secondary schools in Ghana produce 46% of people who gain admission to the universities, just the 20%. And the bottom 20% produce only 8% of people who get admission to the universities. So as a matter of fact, we need to look at addressing the structural weakness in terms of equity and in terms of affordability and access by people from disadvantaged background. Take Northern Region, for example. They do only 22%, according to data available from the Ministry of Education. 22% of them are able to pass the BECE. If you take the Upper East Region, you have 11% of them being able to get access to secondary school because these are the group who had a qualifying grades to go to secondary school. So I was thinking, this being a social policy intervention, our attention should be geared towards targeting these deprived districts, rural areas, and the very poorest households.
So your point is that access to basic education needs to be improved before we think about free senior high school. That's the logic.
The first point, the transition from basic education to the senior high school, there is a disparity in terms of the background of people who are gaining access.
Okay.
So this free SHS policy, it appears that a lot of people will get access. A large proportion of individuals who will benefit may also come from people who went through the private schools and managed to go to the secondary schools.
So you think that the blanket application will bring some unfairness, as a lot of wealthy children and wealthy students are the ones who already passed through to senior high school anyway?
Exactly, that's the case we are making. It is not the case. It's very difficult to argue that every parent in Ghana cannot afford senior high school. It's absolutely difficult to argue from that perspective. We know that the very brilliant students, people who have done very well, but the parents could not afford. So what we need to do when we have very scarce resource at this moment is the redistribution of our resources targeted at supporting the most disadvantaged people. And then as we move ahead, we can be able to then be looking at the larger picture. But just to add that, what the government intends to provide is a partial free senior high school. There are still a high proportion, roughly around 48% of the fee components that will still not be captured by the government's intervention.
Right. Now, let's look at the NDC. The past NDC administration started what it called the progressive free education, and it absorbed part of the cost, the fee paying up to about 12 million cedis towards the implementing the policy, which gave free some form of waiver to 313,301 day students. In your view, did this achieve any aim at all?
Well, I mean, if you look at that particular policy, it will just absorbed just 54 Ghana cedi of the money that were expected by these students. The one this government is providing is much more on a very higher side, you know, as far as these students are concerned.
That's right.
The government figures suggest that the day students, for example, will be doing around their cost. It's the borders that have quite a sizable amount of money to pay. But in that policy, it was also blanket, and well, there's a certain argument that people who go to the days who are day students are likely to come from some disadvantaged background because probably parents cannot afford to pay for boarding facilities. So to that extent, it might look as if that providing more support for day students, and then, for example, technical vocational education students might be in a more proactive approach to bridging the disparity in access to good quality education.
Right, Dr. Prince Zama, we're grateful for your time. Prince Zama is with the Institute for Education Studies, and he joined us on Skype. Now, we also sought views from the public on the free SHS, which President Akufo-Addo says will start next academic year from September 2017.
People have been complaining about fees facing. So if I had grace, the government has come out today that it's going to be a free session. It's a good idea, provided they put everything in the right way before. There won't be any misunderstanding somewhere. So I hope it is, to me, it's good.
There's much pressure on parents, electricity bill, utility bill. So I feel for now, it's okay if the government support parents in that direction.
Many children look at the road size. Those selling pure water, plantain chips, and so on and so forth.
Talking about how this will free parents, and moving on, we all want to see some relief as we see our children through senior high school and help them become the adults responsible with great careers that we aspire of them. So this announcement has been made. The previous government started something. As a parent, the way forward, what do you think the way forward should be?
Thank you very much. The previous government started something, what we call the progressively free education. It means they were in the first year. They didn't get to the 5th year where the speed could have, and then they are gone. But let me shift a little bit. Parents are the major stakeholders in
this.
Yes. I remember when I was here the other time, I told the host that the child is being surrounded by 3 pillars: me, the government, the teacher, and the parent. But parents have been relegated to the background. You'll be surprised to learn that last year, when the former president was inaugurating the community high schools, he failed to even mention the parents. He commended NAGRAT not leaving the parents. Now, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, he has already said that he's a human being and he can make genuine mistakes. He also made a mistake by not even mentioning the parents. You understand? And, I started getting calls, telephone calls from parents this morning. We are the major stakeholders, and it is our children that are being, that the government is trying to assist. So, and whether it is, the report, whether it is good or bad, we definitely will bear the brunt. And so definitely parents should be also be
commended. So you think that way forward, parents should be involved in all of these processes?
Yes, it looks as if the parents have been relegated to the background. And also the fact that is going to be free, it doesn't mean parents will just stand aloof and then look at it. No, we'll continue to complement the efforts of the government.
And support.
And the parents will continue to do exactly what they have been doing, so that the policy.
Mr. Alex Danso, we're grateful for your time. Alexander Danso is the president of the National Council of Parent Teachers Association.